What's up guys, how are you all doing? Welcome back to part 2 of the Hero of the Sky bust. In this video I'll be showing how I painted the glasses and the hair. We're aiming at quite a shiny metal effect on the frames, so in order to maximise contrast I've based them in Vallejo model colour black. This is probably my favourite black to use. I really like the flat finish that it gives. For the initial highlight we'll take some Dark Sea Blue and we're going to mix that into our black, and that's going to give us a nice dark grey colour. Then we'll paint this onto the majority of the rims, but I'm going to try and leave the black as an outline. So I'm basically hitting the raised parts of the frames. If you're interested, I'm using a Raphael 8404 number 1 for my brush here. Oops, I got some in the lens there, so I'll just wipe that off with another brush. Mix a bit of white into your highlight colour and you'll get this nice blue-grey. I'll paint this onto the lower edge of the rim here, and then I'll essentially mirror that on the top edge. Add a couple little dots here and there so that the highlight is a bit broken up and not really one solid line. Alright, so we'll do the same kind of thing on the other side here. Again, I'm adding a few dots to the side of the highlight so that it's more like a broken line. Add some more white into your mix. Now this time we're going to make a pretty big jump in brightness. That's going to help give us that shiny effect that we're going for. Alright, so as far as placement goes, we'll do the same thing as before, just over a smaller area. So we're going to hit that bottom edge in the middle, and then we're going to mirror that on the upper side. And just like we did before, add a few little dots at the side of the line, just here and there to help build up a bit of noise on the surface. Alright, so a couple more dots there just to pick out those elements at the side of the nose. I'll go over those highlights a little bit just to help make them a bit more solid. You can see we're starting to get that metal effect coming through now. Add some more white to your mix and we'll add a few more highlights. So yeah, it's really the same again, just add your highlight around that middle spot on the bottom and then again on the top. And then we'll put a few little dots here and there just to help get that sparkle effect. So what we're trying to do is create a nice balance of contrast between the dark and the light colours. And it's the extreme jumps in brightness that we're using that lets us create a metallic look. I think the rims look quite decent now, so we're going to move on to the lenses. I'm using some scale colour Kaliharri Orange here, and I'm just going to thin that down to a heavy glaze consistency by adding some water. Now we'll paint that onto the lower half of the lens in a little semicircle, just following the shape of the lens. This is the same sort of idea as when you're painting a gemstone. Alright, so I'm going to use the thinness of the paint to create a transition by simply going over it a few times, drawing the paint to that lower edge of the lens, until the orange colour is nice and solid around that point. Now that we've built that up, I'll add a bit more water into the orange in order to create a thin glaze. And we'll pull that over the surface of the lens down to that lower edge, just to make that transition there look a bit less painted on. I'll also add some random dots here and there over the surface, again just to simulate little points of light reflecting on the lens. So it's the same sort of idea we used on the frames of the glasses. Mix some white into your orange now and we'll highlight that lower edge. So I'm just trying to brighten that lower edge around the centre point, and you're going to build this up over a few layers until the highlight is quite solid. Okay, so add a little more white into your mix and we'll go back in for some more highlights. I'm applying these as little dots now to keep them small and also to try and emphasise the light bouncing around on the surface. For the upper half of the lens we'll switch to some scale colour Caspian Blue. This is a really nice desaturated blue tone. I think this is probably one of my favourite paints. So just like we did with the orange, we'll thin this down to a thick glaze consistency and we'll apply it in a little semicircle along the top edge of the lens. And as usual we're going to build this up over a few layers until that centre point at the top is quite solid. At this stage you can start to add a few dots over the surface just to help add some noise and points of interest here and there. Add a little white to your blue and continue to build up the highlights. Don't be scared to add a couple of dots into the darkest parts of the lens. That's going to give you a really nice effect, but you want to be pretty frugal with them. 1 or 2 is going to be enough. Mix some more white in there and we'll keep building up the highlights. So the blue here is meant to represent the colour of the sky, and the orangey brown on the bottom is the colour from the ground. I think it gives you quite a cool effect. Alright, so add a bit more white and we'll do the same thing again. We'll keep the highlights pretty small now. For the last highlight, we'll just use some white on its own, and I'm going to apply this a little off to the side of the blue highlight just to help give more shape to the lens. Also, it gives you this quite nice double highlight effect. I quite like the way it looks, but you can also just dot it right in the middle of the blue one if you're not keen on the way this looks. I'll also add a couple tiny dots of white on the lower edge there. Oops, that was a bit too big. So what we'll do is just grab another brush and wipe that off. And I'll use a bit of water as well just to help get it off the surface. Okay, so if you use water to clean up your mistake, just make sure it's dry before you go back in for another attempt. Yep, that's a bit better this time. And now we're going to add a couple more highlights on the surface just to finish it off. And I guess we might as well dot that little blue highlight just for good measure. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. We'll do the hair now, and I've already based it in Vallejo Model Colour Black, and we're basically going to highlight this in the same way we did for the frames. So we'll start with that black with the Dark Sea Blue mixed in, and I'm just going to paint this over the upper half of the moustache there. I'm not worried about hitting the recesses, I'm just blocking it in over the surface, and again on the other side. For the little tuft of hair, I'll try and pick out each strand. There's actually only a few little hairs here, so it's pretty easy to do this. Next we'll add some white to that mix and we'll pick out the little hairs of the moustache. So this time I'm trying my best not to hit the recesses. And again we'll pick out some of the hairs on a little tuft. Mix in a bit more white and we'll highlight towards the tip of the moustache hairs. You can see that I've got about 4 different colours on the brush there. You probably shouldn't do that, but I was just being a bit lazy and not washing the brush between highlights. So yeah, I'm just touching the brush against the end of each hair, trying to add a little highlight to each one. On the hair here, I'm looking for the highest point of each hair and then adding a little dot for the highlight. Alright guys, so that's the whole of the face finish now. I think it turned out really cool in the end. You can use a lot of these techniques on a smaller scale as well, so don't think this is just all specific to busts. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks very much for your continued support. It's been pretty humbling the past few months. I'll be getting another upgrade for the channel so that I can start to add some patron only streaming content. I'm probably going to reserve that for commission stuff that I'm not making into tutorials, or maybe the odd personal project. We'll need to see about that. I still have to work out the details. Alright, so I better shut up. I've still got a ton of editing to finish. Take it easy. Thanks again. Bye for now.